want to bring attention to this issue that is happening, this very important case that corporate media is ignoring. Corporate media such as the New York Times.
The corporate media has not put any focus on this trial and how important this trial is, and we wanted to highlight it at the citadel of the corporate media, being New York Times.
And they did an article about 2 years ago, but since that time, so many things have been happening. Like the very fact that they can't get the transcript.
Probably the most important trial in recent history in the United States, for the simple reason the United States professes itself as a democracy. Yet, if the chairman, Penny, and Jesse are convicted, that out the window. Any dissent that you have against foreign policy of the United States, they now would have the precedent to lock you up and say that you're an unregistered agent of whomever you're going against.
If they are found guilty, that means they can come after anyone. That means the freedom of speech, in terms of being on paper, at least being written as a law, is gone. They are being charged with they're not being charged with espionage, they're not being charged with embezzlement, they're not being charged with illegal arms or anything like that. It is all about what they said. So that means what you and I are doing right now, they can criminalize that.
So like what's going on now with Venezuela, people who are speaking out with the US nonsense about the elections in Venezuela are ripe to be thrown into prison. People standing up again for the Palestinians, same thing. And so we could go down the line. So this is so important we don't have to agree on everything, but the fundamental principle of being able to put forward anti-colonial free speech is going down the pipes if these guys get convicted.
He has been doing this his whole life. He worked with SNCC back in the, I want to say in the 60s, all of his life. And in 1980, he's one of the people, his organization is the organization that popularized the term reparations.
There is the doula program, that's for training the women to help women to childbirth. There is the re-entry from prison, where they train people. They have a housing for them in St. Louis, where they train people to be in the culinary arts, because they have a food production, culinary arts building and store where they'll be selling pies and all kinds of food in St. Louis. We also have a market, flea market in St. Louis, as well as one in Philadelphia. That's called the one in Philadelphia. It's called the One Africa, One Nation Marketplace. So there's a flea market where people can build businesses outside the system, develop economic strength outside the business for the community. And obviously the other things that we do is, we have political education for the community every Sunday, both in St. Louis and in St. Petersburg. I mean, that's a little bit of some of the programs. Actually, also in South Africa, we're building a clothing factory there.
Because so many black mothers, the infant mortality rate is so high in St. Louis, Missouri. So they were working on a doula training program. In fact, they were going to be having that training the day after that they ended up being attacked, and they still have the training. They work on like a community kitchen, so that people, to create jobs, to create an economic base, not based on capitalism, but based on true community support. They have community gardens there.
Many people here in the United States disagree with the narrative about Ukraine and Russia. And Chairman, the party was up front, put it in context that this was part of the whole the colonial powers trying to destroy Russia, because Russia, as we know, Russia wants a multipolar world. Russia is against U.S. hegemony and Western hegemony, which is a threat, and which we as people fighting against colonialism are in solidarity with.
Fight on, Uhuru!
Fight on, Uhuru!
Never give up!
Never give up!
Cause we got your back!
We got your back!
Cause we got your back!
We got your back!
Cause we got your back!
We got your back!
And how we gonna do it?
The hard way!
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 Uhuru!
Uhuru!
Uhuru! Uhuru! Uhuru!
Uhuru!
Down with the New York Times!
Hands up!
Down with the rap sheet!
Hands up, Africa!
Straight in.
Right on, straight ahead, y'all. Good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
So
much.
I wanted to give you, so at the DNC we have 2 books we're giving out. We're giving out
Okay.
1,000 copies of these
Okay.
to the people protesting the DNC. We're going to leave them around the convention. So we have Chairman O'Malley
Oh, great!
on page 25, and we quote him about describing the raid. We have the Uhuru House.
Great.
So there's that. And then this is the other book we wrote about Kamala Harris
Thank you. Oh,
that
yeah.
was banned from Amazon. So
Yeah.
we decided to print it, and we have the all out for the Uhuru 3 on the back.
Oh, thank you
So
so
we'll
much.
be giving away 1,000 copies of both of these at the
Thank
convention.
you.
So I wanted you to
You know, I
have them.
have to just laugh and say when I first saw this, because just from a distance,
Yeah.
it was like the Jehovah's Witness. No.
After the rioting was done, U.S. media kind of forgot about those communities. Well, Uhuru, they went out there because they saw black and brown people like themselves that were out there protesting and rioting, and they stayed there. And they've been there since 2014, providing services in the community, giving these young people in the community something constructive to do, not just go out and break shit to raise awareness about the conditions they're in, but ways to actually feed people and serve the community. And they've been there in St. Louis since 2014 doing constructive work. They have really escalated these programs. They have a farmer's market. They provide classes and services to pregnant mothers, and in particular in St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Petersburg, Florida. They're trying to undo the damage that the U.S. Department of Justice and the state police and the local police and all the forces have been doing in communities like Ferguson, Missouri. And at the same time that they've done this community work, the African People's Socialist Party has also taken a firm anti-imperialist stance. They support China. They support Russia. They support Cuba. They support Iran. And when the United States started piling weapons into Kiev, they defended Russia's right to intervene.
This defensive war in Ukraine that Russia is actually waging against world colonial powers, not Ukraine as a single entity, but the U.S. and all colonial powers who have an interest in colonially dominating African people right here in this country and around the world and extracting resources from the majority of peoples on the planet. That system, this current system, is in severe crisis, and they cannot rule in the same old way.
Because of that, their homes were raided. Then months later, the federal government came out with an indictment, and it's charging them with being Russian agents. And it's trying to allege that the election campaign that they ran in St. Petersburg, Florida, was somehow interference in the U.S. electoral process.
4 activists associated with the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement and the African People's Socialist Party have been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. The indictment from the U.S. Department of Justice accuses them of spreading Russian propaganda and cites simply some web conferences that they had, some Zoom meetings, some emails they sent out, as well as the fact that they have run routine election campaigns. Is this of concern to the Secretary General as an attack on human rights, freedom of assembly, etc.?
I frankly was not aware of the case before you mentioned it. Let me look into it and I will get back to you.
What's going on in Africa is directly connected to what's going on here. What's going on in Ukraine is connected to what's going on in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? It's an international global economy that's all connected.
Because they go to conferences in Russia, this constitutes Russian meddling in the elections. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's completely, utterly ridiculous. They've been running these campaigns for years, since before I was born. Back in the 1970s, they were running people for office. Their platform of reparations, I mean, Marianne Williamson, she's a major Democrat candidate. She also says she believes in reparations. I mean, it's not a unique message that they have in that sense, but they have been targeted because they're doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, you know, at all of our meetings, we have a picture of Fred Hampton up on the stage because Fred Hampton, he built a free breakfast program. He organized what he called a rainbow coalition, uniting low-income people, white, black, brown, Arab, Latino into one organization, trying to build up community empowerment, trying to do community service projects while teaching Marxism and socialism. We look at Fred Hampton as a great example of the American revolutionary tradition. And, the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, they don't like that we wave the American flag. They don't like that we consider ourselves patriotic. They have their own kind of unique analysis. They talk about what they call the colonial mode of production. That's not traditional Marxist thinking. And we don't agree with them on a number of issues, but it doesn't matter. We support them.
We all have to stand up and oppose the ideology of division and support an ideology of unity based upon our material interests, to work together.
People who can't understand that, people who can't get past, this or that, we got to put aside our differences and say that if they come for them, they come for all of us. If they go after them, they got to deal with all of us. That needs to be the attitude among anti-imperialists.